I'm Charles Harris. I am a senior here at San Francisco State, and I'm studying communications with a minor in marketing. For EXCO, I am teaching the personal branding and communications course. And this semester I have 8 students, and last semester I had 11 students. So a little bit of a fall from last semester, but with online learning and everything.
Yeah, a lot happened since last semester. I know that you have some organizational affiliation too, so you represent a student org.
Yes, I've actually been a part of the Marketing Association on campus since a freshman. I've done the junior board program. I've been VP of PR, and then for the last year and a half, I've been the president. So that's been something that I've kind of aligned EXCO with. Whenever I have any time to speak during a meeting, I always talk about EXCO and make announcements and things like that. So I think it goes kind of hand by hand within the class that I'm teaching and the marketing.
Yeah, I think that's great. I want to encourage more and more organizations to basically educate the campus through EXCO, right? That's a way that students can, who might just be kind of interested, can get to know a little bit more about it in one semester and then join your organization after the semester, right? So I think that's great. That may answer that question, but what was your original motivation to teach? Was it anything different than what you just said?
A little bit different. As you know, I've been consulting since I was a sophomore in high school. I went through several trade schools, and they were focused on marketing, entrepreneurship, and things like that. So I had a very young start of communications and marketing and PR. I had 3 different internships within my high school career. So I kind of really wanted to give back. I've been working with a lot of different companies and a lot of cool, political figures and, business leaders within marketing. And I really wanted a chance to give back to other students of how it is from my perspective as a Black man working in, corporate America. And I know that a lot of other students don't get a lot of the, all the opportunities that can be presented to them. A lot of people don't teach you about negotiation skills within salary. They don't teach you about, personal branding and how to, articulate your story. So that's the reason why I wanted to teach, was to give back the things that I've learned in my life and to different students. It doesn't matter your age. I've had students that have been 40, 45, and we still see each other eye to eye. So it's pretty cool.
Wow, that's amazing. You said you've worked with some political figures and business leaders. Anyone notable or anyone famous who you really enjoyed working with?
Yeah, I can't say because of NDAs and things like that. But one was a political figure in San Francisco and San Mateo, and it was just really eye-opening, and I really loved getting into politics. Especially during this political climate. And it was just such a great experience to be able to just see, because this was my first time in politics, seeing how it's different within, the business sector. For different companies, I've worked with, what is it called? Guy Fieri. That's probably one that I can say is when I was in high school as a junior, I interned at a marketing company, and I was a PR intern, and I got to help them, with his social media for his restaurant and his book signing and different things like that. So, a lot of stuff, as a little Central Valley kid, I didn't think that I would be able to get that far, but I did. So I really wanted to share that anything is really possible, no matter where you live.
Yeah, it sounds like you've had some amazing opportunities and you've done a lot of hard work, and yeah, that's great. Such experience as a senior at SF State. Yeah. And I also really love, I just want to say, I love that your motivation is to give some of that back and to create more, knowledge for SF State students, to be able to brand themselves and communicate and represent themselves effectively and things like that. Will you teach again in the future? What is your kind of career path, and does teaching fit into that in any way?
Yeah, I've always kind of wanted to teach. That's always been, I just never knew how. I always thought I would have to get my master's and wait. And then when I figured out about the EXCO program, I knew this was something that I had to add to my plate. Even though I have 100 other things, I had to do it. and it was mostly because of like Kathy. Like, you know, we've had a lot of one-on-ones, and it was just like her vision of what this was really aligned with what I wanted to do. So I do want to teach again. I have to see what next semester is going to look like for me. I don't even know if I'm going to be in the Bay Area. You know, I don't know where I'm going to be. And, you know, I would love to do it. It just depends on how much work I have within school, but I'll definitely be, you know, striving to do it again.
Yeah, and I mean, even whether or not for EXCO again, you've given back in the last 2 semesters, and maybe one of your students wants to pick up the baton and
Mhm.
take it from there and make it their own and that kind of thing, or someone from your organization, right?
Exactly. Mhm.
Yeah, that's great. So you've set it up for them. You've probably left them some big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
Um, how would you describe yourself as a learner, and how does that kind of inform how you see your students and how you teach your students?
So for me, I'm visual, and a lot of my other students are. That's something that I ask them in the beginning of the class each semester is how they learn. And a lot of them are all visual. Some are like, you know, audio and don't really care about visual things. But for me, I think it's easier to like, you know, go from A, B to C. So for me, I share my screen all the time. I always have something to show when we are online now, because it's difficult to keep them engaged if they're not, you know, if you're just looking at all these people. So I've been keeping them engaged with visuals such as, you know, videos, pictures, doing collaborative activities and stuff like that. I actually did the annotation thing that you did today. So I've done that with them a couple of times, and they really like that. And it's a cool way to get engaged with them. So yeah, probably all visual learners.
Yeah, amazing. I was going to ask you to describe maybe one of your lessons or a typical lesson. Do you want to describe the annotation activity that you did in your class?
Mm-hmm. So for me, what I did in my class is we were watching Being Mary Jane this time for so it was on a BET news network, and then so I had I paused the screen and then went over to just like a blank white one, and then I just said, hey, what are some of the branding strategies that you've seen within these 15 minutes of this pilot episode? And so everybody would just, you know, would draw, do this, and it was really cool to just see that live and not have to wait for a journal or a journal entry for them to submit. So yeah.
Yeah, we're always figuring out, it seems like every week, new tools that Zoom has or new ways we can engage students with the
Mhm.
tools that Zoom has in there. It's not perfect, but there are some fun things we can do. Great. What's a project that students do?
So their main project within uh, the class is to have a completed LinkedIn profile and a completed kind of 30-second or to a minute pitch summary about themselves only, because that's the first thing that recruiters and everybody asked you is tell me about yourself. So we go kind of through that in different layers. We first start looking at the history of why branding is important and the different types of cultural differences that branding has.
Hmm.
And then that's when George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and different things like that come up. And then we start going into themselves and their childhood, the student's childhood, and why they like this and why they, you know, don't like this. And we do vision boards to help them kind of have a map of like where they want to be. And that's kind of just their foundation of the class. So their projects are kind of just self work. It's not really anything, you know, tangible, but they have that option to like make a storyboard and like have their, you know, mind map there.
Yeah, and I mean, coming out of your class with a really robust LinkedIn profile is very valuable for their next steps for sure. You mentioned George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, and kind of thinking about the social climate that's going on right now. How would you say your class is meeting that moment, and can maybe expand on how you addressed these issues in your class?
Mhm. So for me, I really wanted to, my class has always been kind of socially justice based. I really wanted to make that clear within, you know, my syllabus and things like that. But for this semester, what I'm doing differently is really sitting down with each student to make sure that if they have any questions about what is happening in the world or this, or this, that they feel comfortable enough to ask, because I believe education and knowledge is the best tool that you can give anybody. Um, so I've been kind of using George and Breonna Taylor's story as kind of like the framework of how minorities are seen and how it's kind of exactly like this in like the streets, like outside, how it is in the corporate world. There's not a difference. The only difference is just, coding, and I try to help my students understand that you're going to be if you're going to be in a certain situation or at a certain company, you need to be able to know and communicate with them what your values are. And if they're not in those boxes of your values, then you shouldn't even be working for them. And that's what a lot of students are having a hard time with, especially during this time with Corona and social justice and stuff. It's like, oh, I just need to get a job. I just need to be able to stay settled. And yeah, that it has that anxiety. However, you're going to put yourself in a really bad position where you might get a lot of money, but you're not going to be able to do what you want to do with your life. It's that balance.
Yeah. That's fascinating. And so if the company doesn't meet your values or who you are or how you want to brand yourself, right, in a more maybe kind of brand yourself not to cater to some other company's expectations, and then that company is not for you.
Exactly. And that's something that I had to learn very hard since I was consulting, very, very young. And I've had all different opportunities and these proposals doing this, and this. And, it wasn't until, I turned 2021 where I was actually like, wow, I can say no to this person. I can say no. It doesn't matter really about the money. It's like, how's that going to make me look and how's that going to make me feel inside? So, yeah.
Interesting. There's an article that I'm going to send you. I think it's just from today that is about the new LinkedIn feeds and how the discourse around corporate America is really changing through LinkedIn, and how Black voices are affecting that, and Black discourse is affecting that. And the article is about how LinkedIn is reacting, and so it is actually a very, very interesting. I think you'd find it fascinating. Do you feel that that what you're describing, it will eventually change the face and the language and the discourse and the norms of corporate America?
I think that it will. I just feel like I said again, this is the reason why I'm in EXCO, is because of the knowledge, it's the teaching. I think that people really just need to, even if it's just a video or just a workshop or something, anything that can help and push content. That's what I say in my industry, is push content of things that are just very educational based upon different topics. You can change. I believe anything can change. It just needs to have the right leadership and the right messaging around it, so the majority of people can understand it. Yeah.
All right, that's great. What has been, maybe if you can think to a specific moment, what's been something exciting about teaching or surprising about your experience?
So last semester was my first time teaching, and it was really cool. I had 11 students, and they were almost all of them were older than me. I was teaching when I was 21. I was 20 at the time. And one of them was was an assistant at a daycare center, like a child facility center. She was, I think, 30 something. And then I had a foreign exchange student actually from Kenya who took my class. And so after all of this, and they were asking me so many questions, because they were just, they're not really from here. They don't know really anything about, the culture here. I would have office hours with them. I would talk to them, help them with with their internship applications. And at the end of the class, one of them got an internship from a Tibia Foundation, which was a nonprofit, and he's an international student scholar. And the other one got a promotion at work and is now the director of health and safety. And that was like a really big eye opener from me. And SF State did a story on his name is Wayne. He got the internship and stuff. They did a story on him, and it was really interesting to see him just flourish. And they gave me a thank you note. They texted me and emailed me and just thank you so much. And it was just amazing. So it was good to see that, like, my hard, work paid off for somebody else and not just like, for me, something to put on my resume.
Wow. Yeah. Those are real tangible impacts you're having on students and on students' lives. That's great. What's been one of your challenges or your greatest challenge?
My greatest challenge is definitely, I would say, kind of time management, but not really. Um, you know, Trying to go to school, do marketing association, and then also consult and do things on the side and family issues and all that type of stuff. Um, I feel that, you know, it's to the point where I need to be able to just sit down and be like, okay, I'm grading this right now and not having to do everything at one time. Cause I usually will do that and just sit there for 3 hours and it's like, I could be taking breaks. So it's definitely like my time management issue and balancing between it. Um, EXCO is really important to me. I love teaching my class. I'm always going to be there for the students. So it's going to be me, trying to say, okay, stop working on this for a couple of seconds. The student doesn't need this right then and right now. They just submitted it yesterday. But it's just being able to just like relax and balance it all out.
Yep. I think that's a real challenge for a lot of people, myself included. My girlfriend will complain all the time that you're always working on schoolwork, and it's like, well, there's something drawing me to that work. It's like that's the work that I want to do, and I don't want to do the housework right now. So I touched on this, and I didn't want to lead you too much talking about corporate America, but in what ways might your course be making larger changes at SF State or larger changes in society?
My goal when having this course at SF State, like the reason why I wanted to go to SF State because it's just there's no issues within, like, I don't know how to explain it. Just coming from Central Valley to here, it's just very different. And there's a lot more opportunity and a lot more open for change. So I definitely would love to see my class, like personal branding and communication, something like that, as a, requirement for GE. I think that that's something that would benefit every single person, no matter what industry that they're in. You still need to be branded, with yourself. So I would definitely say I would want to see that, impact freshmen's lives and where they can start at a good place and then, figure out what they actually want to do by the time they're a senior and know who they are. And I hope it just sparks, different types of discussions about why we need, this type of class in, our schools today and universities.
Yeah, and I would say especially with the critical perspective that you're bringing to it, having this discussion with you really, solidifies that for me, that you are making change in how, and how people brand themselves and how people think they have to brand themselves to get that job, right? To get that job that's going to mold them into a certain box that might not really be them. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I love how you said all that. That is amazing. You're also giving me ideas for my own first year writing class, because that is a gen ed, so I could use some of your ideas in that class. Maybe I'll make a new project or a new unit. Well, I want to say thank you so much, Charles, for teaching for EXCO and for being such a positive contributor to our community, both in EXCO and SF State more in general. I know that this semester has not been what you expected, not been what any of us expected, but it sounds like with the individual connections you're making with students, and you're really handling it really well. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dan.
Thanks for your time today, and have a good rest of your day.
Yes, you too. Bye.
All right, Charles, take care.